is Chris Page. I'm the CEO of Aon here in the Middle East. Been here for about 4 years, and at the conference today I was presenting on a theme which is going to become more relevant as we move into the fourth industrial revolution, which is around competencies, and specifically competencies that you need in a digital world. There is no doubt about it, everything we do now is touched by the digital environment, and as organisations we can't get away from the fact that we need to be thinking about our digital strategies, and that means we need to revisit the traditional competencies that we use to try and understand what we as an organisation need from our employees, because they're not aligned to the new world order, which is the digital environment. So an example, if we look at the traditional competency around problem solving and decision making, typically quite a narrow focus. You know, the competency will be about looking at analysing data and then coming up with a correct solution. If we compare that with the equivalent digital competency, it's not necessarily about coming up with the correct solution, and it's not about looking at a specific set of data. It's much wider than that. It's trying to understand trends and what those trends and where those trends are going mean in terms of coming up with an appropriate set of actions. And if you compare that with the traditional, it's incredibly wide, and you also need to be able to connect on a virtual network as well. The fact that it's constantly evolving. You know, as an HR consultant, as an HR, say, specialist, you don't want stasis. You know, you want to be in an environment which requires you to constantly be rethinking, revisiting programs that have been developed to try and see if they're still relevant for the organisations that you're working with. The next 5-10 years, we're going to see an exponential set of development in what typically has moved in sort of 5-10 year chunks, and I'm really excited to be, really at the forefront of that. I think you've got a mixture. You definitely have organisations that are right at the cutting edge. You have organisations that are, let's say, less towards the cutting edge. I think what's interesting is that everybody recognises here that there is a need to move transitionally from the way they've managed their employee resource. And that's mainly down to the economic drivers around that, efficiency. There's a big focus on productivity. And one of the ways in which you can best understand productivity is to use the data that you collect as an organisation. So using the data around engagement, using the data around profitability, using the data around performance management, and looking for correlations. And that requires individuals who are capable of data analysis. Not just compiling big reports, but actually going into the data and mining information that is actually going to support strategically the business in making decisions. And organisations are no longer able to have that as a nice to have. If you want the competitive advantage, you need to be able to do that. Well, I've been in region for 4 years or so. This, without doubt, is probably the most well attended, and certainly from a production perspective, the most impressive forum that I've had the benefit of attending. Certainly in the few discussions I was able to have this morning, there's a huge amount of excitement in terms of the content coming out of the speakers and the various hosted talks, as well as some of the workshops that have been had. And I think people have really enjoyed and have taken away a lot of learnings from that, which is, from a conference organiser's perspective, I guess the most important thing, because you want to leave an impact. And I certainly would take away the fact that this has been one of the most impactful HR events. And I very much like the fact it is very much aimed at the Arabic population as opposed to the multinationals.